ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download.
Check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Breakfast Bankroll Tuesday. Myself and Scotty Webb live from Tampa to talk about a quick recap on the Lions roaring to a victory in Baltimore last night, and you know, not too long ago, they came in opening year, first game of the year, 6-point underdogs to Kansas City, who were the Super Bowl champs. And they came in and not only covered, but won the game outright. But what's really something we'll have to discuss for a quick second here is Kansas City Chiefs host the Ravens this week. One of those teams will be 1-3 to start the year. And so buckle up. I know on my bingo card, I wouldn't have had the Ravens or the Chiefs start on the year 1-3. So tough sledding for one of these two teams after this week's game on Sunday. A shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, Amber Hawley, Carol Bucks, myself, Matt, Alan. The list is endless. Just download the app, jump on over to X and follow them. Join the community. The best in the business. I promise you on that. And AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, wines, appetizers, you name it, they got it. Go introduce yourself to Terry Smith on Facebook, and from there, come on back. Order today. You could be grilling as early as Thursday. And on a somber note, this show is dedicated to Marty Lowe at Bama Marty. Marty passed away yesterday morning. Been a rough 48 hours here with Dave Sharapin and now Marty. Thank you, Valerie, for reaching out to me. Big fan. He's been with us for a long time. Passed unexpectedly. So, Marty, rest in peace. Roll Tide, Roll Tide. I know you'll be watching down from above. So, without further ado, let's bring him in. Scotty Webb. What's up, Scotty?
Well, what is today? Today's Tuesday. Another day. I think that based off of what we saw last night, you know, when you think about Baltimore, and I've been saying it the whole time, like they're the best team in the NFL. How can you be the best team in the NFL if you're 1-2 and you can't beat Buffalo, you can't beat the Lions, and you give up that many points? So then I started thinking about it. Well, shit, Buffalo gives up a lot of points. Well, where's the damn defense in the NFL with these good teams? You know what I mean? Like there's there's some separation going on with some of these teams. You know, uh, the Packers are a good team. I don't think they have the offenses that those two teams have, but they got a defense that may be better than both of those two teams. You know, stuff like that. So I kind of wonder a little bit about really who really is the best team in the NFL. I know power rankings and all that stuff kind of tell you, but my eyeballs tell me that if you're going to go out there and get in a slugfest with these teams over and over and over and over, you're going to lose some of those games because sometimes the other team is just going to find a way. And I think Detroit showed that. I mean, Detroit was dominant most of the game. I mean, they did a great job last night. I was, to be honest, very surprised because, you know, I said it yesterday, I think, on the show. I like Detroit as a home team, not as an away team, and they went out there and blew them out.
You know the funny. I brought this up yesterday to a couple friends and colleagues. If you could pick one team to play the perfect game on offense, defense, and special teams for 60 minutes, hands down, without a doubt, I wouldn't even blink. I would take the Ravens. They just what they can do offensively, what they could do or can do defensively, and of course on special teams. Every year they seem to have a great regular season. They'll find a way to win a game in the playoffs, and whether it's Josh Allen in Buffalo or Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, when it gets to the playoffs, their kryptonite, of course, has always been Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But what I known for a couple of years with this team, Scotty, is they're great front runners. These guys are amazing when they're playing from ahead. What Detroit did is it was 7-7, and they both got stopped in the second, late first quarter, second quarter. Ravens pinned them on their own 4, and then they marched 96 yards, took 8-9 minutes off the clock. Now the Ravens are playing from behind. They got all the way down there. Lamar puked, and it looked like at half it was going to go to 14-7. They pull a miracle out of there, you know what, 14-14 at half. But the 13 minutes that the Lions had, they kind of changed up the game plan and says, you know what, we're going to just keep putting pressure on them. I think they ended up with 7, 8, 9 sacks. And Lamar looked like a deer in the headlight. And Derrick Henry with another fourth quarter fumble. This is a team, I'm not saying spiraling. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. Again, as I said in the intro, either them or the Chiefs are going to start 1-3. And if it's the Chiefs, you got a 3-0 Charger team who could be 4-0 after this week. And when you're looking up at 1-3 and versus a 4-0 team, and you've already lost to them once, you know, I know Rashee Rice is coming back week 7. They don't know about Worthy, but my point is that makes it tough because at least Lamar and Harbaugh can say, okay, this is no Joe Burrow. And you know and I know Pittsburgh is going to be 500, and I don't think they fear the Browns. So if the Ravens lose on Sunday, I don't still think there's any kind of panic in Baltimore.
No. I'm not. I don't think so either. I don't want to say it like that. I just say it in a way that it makes me rethink my thoughts about what I'm seeing and what I'm looking at. Right? Because at some point I'm going to have to look at it and go, well, how good are the Colts? I mean, I just am. I'm going to have to sit there and go, are they any good, or are they just, you know, kind of getting through some of these teams that they're playing right now? And the reality becomes is, you know, at the end, you know, when the playoffs come into town and, you know, they kind of get in there, it's, you know, because have you been impressed with what you've seen from the Chiefs? I mean,
No.
I've been impressed with their defense. Now, I have not been impressed at all with Mahomes. They can't run the ball. Mahomes is running around with it, you know, like crazy back there trying to make plays and do stuff. And those plays that seem to be what he was doing when he was younger, you know, hitting those 30-yard passes when he scrambles off somewhere and then throws it out there, he hits them. Now he throws them out there and he's not even close. So he doesn't complete those passes. And I'm concerned for the Chiefs. And then I look at it and go, well, in that AFC, well, now how dominant does the Chargers look? You know what I mean? Like they look buttoned up. And then all these other teams don't necessarily look buttoned up. Now, that's a big thing to say because the Chargers haven't played the Bills and they haven't played the Ravens, and of all the things we can say negatively about either any of those teams can score points. I mean, they got offenses that are just that they can score with the best of any teams that are out there. So that puts pressure on the other team. Whereas Detroit has an offense that they can score points. So it can be a track meet, or in their case, they got 9 sacks, played great defense, found a way, and made it happen for them. And kudos to them, and kudos to the head coach again. 4th down and 2 with a minute 59 to go or whatever it is in the game, and he goes not midfield, right? I mean, it was midfield, goes for it on 4th and 2, gets a 30-yard pass, and it's complete, and the game's over. So good for them. I mean, that's football in a nutshell of how you wrap it up and make it work.
Yeah, and just lastly on the NFL, just by default, Eagles, Bills right now at the top of the heap. You got the Chargers right behind them, undefeated. Obviously Dallas, CeeDee Lamb 3-4. Listen, high ankle sprain. See you week 10 or 11. I think they got to buy week 10. Yeah, week 11. And they play the Packers this week. So the Packers got caught with their pants down in the 4th quarter, up 10-0, trying to already limp to Dallas. 7-point favorites this week, by the way. I look for a bounce back there. And when we wanted to bury the Lions after week 1 going into Green Bay, and we saw their output against the Bears, obviously, at home, and the same says you're going to see a different team home and away. Well, kudos, game ball, Dan Campbell. And the rest of that team. And when you look at them on paper and see the pressure that they can put on a quarterback, it was almost like a frenzy. That there was blood in the water, and they could smell it, they could taste it. Offensively, they got the weapons second to none. They got Gibbs, they got Montgomery, they got St. Brown, they got Laporta, they got Jamison Williams, they got the rookie Tesla. They're not going anywhere this year, Scotty.
No, look, I thought what where I thought they won was the line of scrimmage.
Yes,
their offensive line was great, and their defensive line was great, and I didn't think that was going to happen. I just didn't think that was going to happen. And when you're in a position like that, I mean, and then with all the weapons you just identified and all the stuff that's going on there. Baltimore didn't have an answer. That's what happened. They didn't have a way to move the football to score points, and we're going to talk about EPA and stuff like that in a minute. But so we'll get to that. And it's a perfect example. You can have all the yards you want, but if you don't turn the yards to points, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so EPA is all about extra points added, and we're going to get into that in a minute. So I'm going to talk about how you can use what we're going to talk about in college football. But anyway, the point being is that I think that they did a dominant job of handling the fronts. I think they did a great job. And you know what? I don't know. Goff's been playing really good, and he played a really good game. When they needed him to make a pass, he made a pass. They ran the ball well. They held on to the ball forever. They got first down after first down after first down. Yeah, they started inside their 5-yard line twice and drove the whole complete field. I mean, who does that against the Baltimore Ravens, right? So I
have to ask you this. Pull up the stats if you could, Scotty. Can you please tell me 2 things? How many total rushing yards did the Lions end up with? It was over 200, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. It was over 200.
I mean, Monday Night Football in Baltimore. I mean, we're talking 2025 here. We're not talking 1985. We're not talking 95, 2005. You don't get over 200 yards rushing in the NFL, never mind in Baltimore. So Harbaugh's got to be choking on his coffee. I don't think he probably slept last night either.
Well, that's probably right. I mean, he's it's funny, the Harbaughs, right? I think the guy in Baltimore does a great job, but he like you talked about just a minute ago. I think they do a great job when they're in the lead. I think their team's built for being in the lead and hanging on to it and keeping the scoring where it needs to be and all of that stuff. And then they put the pressure on the quarterback by doing whatever to keep the lead. But think about how many times you've seen or heard Baltimore come back and win football games. I mean, I don't know that it happens that regularly. I mean, it doesn't. And we just saw Baker Mayfield do it 3 weeks in a row. I'm not saying that means that they're a better team. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that there's a way teams are built, and there's a way teams win football games. And I think that they have one way. And, if they don't fit into that one way, maybe that's why they haven't been to the Super Bowl, right? Maybe that's why they keep losing to the Chiefs or the Bills or whoever to not make it in, to make it not that far, because they can't get past that hurdle.
38 rushes, 224 yards. They average 5.9 yards a carry. Now, granted, Montgomery popped one in the fourth quarter for 72 yards. 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 by Montgomery, 2 by Gibbs. Before we jump over to college, I'm a guy that's a numbers guy, and everyone here especially knows how much I trust and respect the opening number. Scotty, when I scratch my head and say, whoa, that's a statement. There's a statement out here in the NFL this week, and I got a week to wrap my head around it. And listen, I was talking last night to my friends and colleagues about the it factor, and I was asking all the locals, do you think Drake May has the it factor? And they're like, well, blah, 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 blah. I was like, we know Mahomes has the it factor. Tom Brady has the it factor. Mahomes. What Baker has done the last 3 weeks, he is the demons in Cleveland basically run out of town to what he has done in Tampa. And the first 3 weeks, Baker has the it factor. I'm not a power rankings guy. I'm a numbers guy. I'm an eye test guy. And what I almost was like, whoa, Scotty, and it's got to be all on the power rankings, is Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the Philadelphia Eagles this week, and yet Philadelphia opened up 3.5-point favorites.
Yeah. They played here, I think, 2 years ago.
And got their asses handed to them in a playoff game.
So I think it's an interesting spot here, too, because, how did Philadelphia win last week? What does their offense really look like? I mean, how productive has it really been? They've been winning games because their defense has been keeping them in the games. How has Tampa Bay been winning games? They've just been fighting tooth and nail. I mean, theoretically they should have beat the Jets by 2 touchdowns. So whatever. The game didn't end that way, but that's how the game really played out. But Tampa Bay was on the road 2 weeks in a row, and they had to play 2 tough teams. And one of them was, I think, a Monday night game. So it's not like they've been going and playing cupcakes. There's all this concern about the Buccaneers and their guys being hurt, which should rightfully be the case. I mean, Tristan Wirfs still hasn't played, even though he's been practicing. Godwin hasn't played, even though he's been practicing. And they lost their right tackle already. So they're down quite a few players. So we'll see how this plays out. I haven't done I'm on Monday, Tuesday, I really do a lot more college football stuff than I do NFL stuff. And then as Wednesday, Thursday comes around, I get more involved in the NFL. So I just don't have the ability to just run all these programs and go bang, 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 bang. Let's go get like I do for baseball. But there's only 30 games in baseball. There's 100 games in football. So I have to go kind of manually through most of that stuff. But anyway, point being is I think it's kind of a weird spot, right? I mean, maybe this game should be more pick'em, maybe not.
Well, and about that game is one of those teams will be 4-0. One will be 3-1, and the thought is CeeDee Lamb 3 to 4 weeks, high ankle sprain. Like I said earlier, you see him around probably after their bye week, which I think is week 10. Jaden Daniels, the numbers suggest to me, at least the opening numbers, that he will be playing as their road favorites. But we want to jump into college. I have your spreadsheet up. I also have game on paper up. So if you'd like to break down the game on paper to start the week, unless there's some opening numbers that have already moved, however you want to do it, you tell me and I'll follow your lead here.
Yeah, let's do this real quick. Obviously we have the availability. People can ask questions, and that's what we want, guys. Comments, questions, just ask, because hopefully we can help. And one of the things that came across my Twitter feed yesterday was one of our followers here, not only on Twitter but watch the show, PB. Thank you for the question. Said, hey, thanks for Games on Paper website. Then he said, I just now got to learn how to use it because I don't know what other stuff is, right? So then I said, well, if you have any specific questions, ask. And he said, oh, well, no, I found a glossary. Well, what I thought that led to is maybe I should do a breakdown of a game to help people kind of understand how to really function within this and then use it to their best ability. So I shouldn't say unfortunately, I did a PowerPoint to be able to do this presentation today, but I'm not able to send it correctly, so it didn't get put on here. But we'll get it fixed. I'll figure out how to do it, and then we'll do it at another time. But the point being is I'm going to verbally kind of go through a game, and then break down some of these things so that you can see exactly what you're looking at. And then how to use the information, because just because you break down a game like this doesn't mean that that's the end all be all, right? I mean, so Jeff, go to the Florida State and Virginia game on Games on Paper. So guys, when you go there and then you click on the link and you open it up, right? I think the first thing that everybody does is they skip that stuff at the top of the menu and they go right into the middle. And they go into the middle because they see, well, there's offense versus defense, and then how does that matchup look? Well, stop before you do that. Okay, so you got to look at the top left box and the top right box, and that's Florida State, Virginia, in kind of a nutshell. So the first things I want to talk about is you're going to see EPA per play, and you can see them. They're in the first column or the first row on the furthest to the right for both teams. And in this case, I'm going to slide my sheet over to where that is. You can see that EPA for Florida State, they rank number 1 in the entire country, and they are plus 0.60. And Virginia is, what is that, 20 or 38th? They're 38th, and they are plus 0.23. So what you got to kind of then think about in your head is one team's got an advantage over the other one here, and that's Florida State. And I know that the rank is 1 versus 38. That's 37 spots. So it shouldn't mean a lot, but it does. It means a lot because so think about it in terms of net EPA in this case. And then the net EPA in this case is going to be what, 37, something like that. So 0.37. So 0.37 is the advantage for Florida State. So what does that mean exactly? So let's tell you exactly how to define EPA for a second and give you a better understanding of what that really means. Well, EPA, it stands for extra points added. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean? You're not getting points, right? Well, EPA measures every single play from every team. So first of all, it's dynamic in terms of stats, and it will then you can break them down. You can see it down below there a little bit. EPA rushing, EPA passing, EPA defense, rushing, passing, all of that. It's all there. But so Think of it in terms of you've got a football field and it's obviously 100 yards long. And every play that gets you closer to a score, whether it's a field goal, a touchdown, or whatever, every play that gets you closer is an EVA positive, EPA positive result. So an EPA positive result is a good thing. It just keeps adding up and growing. But if you get sacked, if you have to punt, if you have to have turnover on downs, if you have you have EPA negative plays as well. So you have positives and negatives that move the ball closer to the goal. So in this case, Florida State is 1/3 better on the field to score points than Virginia is. Think about that. So if you're 1/3 better on the field because of performance, this is because of offense, defense, right? Performance, then you've got a huge advantage in terms of how you're going to get the result. Now, the one thing I would say is that when you're doing this, there's a reason sometimes why some of these stats are the way they are, especially at the beginning of the season. So you have to calibrate that based off of who they've played and what their strength of schedule. So you need to find a good strength of schedule. I use one, and the one that I use is I'll tell you where I get it from. It's it is from teamrankings.com. That's where I go and I get that information. I go to teamrankings.com, just so you know. And teamrankings.com, guys, has all of this stuff if you want to know. But it's not like this kind of data. It's going to be yards per play, points, per yards per points, and all this it's going to be stuff like that. So anyway, I get my strength of schedule from there. And for this particular game, Florida State is 107. So they've played a very soft schedule to this point. But Virginia is 110. So very similar. They played very similar opponents. So the stats then have more meaning because one team hasn't played the toughest schedule and the other team played a bunch of patsies. In this case, both of them played a bunch of patsies, right? All right, so EPA then gets you to understand that every play gets you closer to a field goal, closer to a touchdown. If you get closer to a touchdown, then obviously the EPA goes up a little higher. If it gets closer to a field goal, obviously it goes up, and not as much as to a touchdown, all that kind of stuff. So when you're thinking about this, I wrote it down this way: is EPA measures the distance to the end zone to a probability of outcome, such as touchdown or field goal. So, for example, if a team had a huge yardage gain edge, that doesn't mean that they really outscored their opponent, because it's about points. And when we gamble and we're betting on these games, everything is about points. So EPA and these data points is all about predictability of outcomes, which is exactly what we're doing. Yards per play doesn't necessarily provide that. Points per play doesn't necessarily provide that. It gives you an ability to compare one team to another team and see how good an offense or defense is, but it doesn't necessarily tell you about covering point spreads. So I think it's important to realize that the what I got from this was, if this is why you use efficiency stats versus using old school stats for some of this stuff. So that was kind of what I wanted to say here. And then as you go to the next line down, Jeff, the next line down, it's going to say yards per play, and it's on there. Yards per play is there for both teams. And again, you're looking at yards per play, and guess what? Florida State, number 1 in the entire country at yards per play. And again, you're at like 38, 39, something like that for Virginia. Now, that's really good. Don't get me wrong. 38 in the country is good out of 130 schools. There's nothing wrong with that. And then there's the column that says AY percent. Most people don't know what AY percent even stands for or what it means. So what is it? Well, AY percent is available yards percentage. In other words, how much yardage in space was this team able to get versus the available yards around them? So in this case, you have, again, Florida State plus 54%, number one in the entire country. And then you see that Virginia's pretty good at that too. They were plus 35%, 11. All right, so that's going to tell you that that Florida State is maximizing everything they're doing, maximizing almost everything that's going on for them. And it's not that Virginia is bad. It's just that Florida State is the best. And then the last one is success percentage. Most people kind of have an understanding of maybe what success percentage is. But the basic definition of success percentage, if I can tell you, it is the percentage of plays gained versus expected yards. So if you ran the ball for 3 yards and the expectation was you were going to get 4, that's not a successful play. But if you ran the ball for 4 yards, you were going to get 3, then that's a success. So it's success rate based off of running, passing, whatever. So again, that success rate then turns into yardstick moving plays. That's first downs. That's driving the ball. So now when you're kind of looking at this, you're sitting there going, well, how does all this work? Well, you've got EPA, so you're going to see how they do in terms of scoring points, moving the ball to score points. Then you're going to see first downs. You're going to see how many available yards that were available and how much did they actually capture. And what's cool about available yards, it also considers the space, meaning that the depth, the width of the field. So you can kind of look at it from a big perspective of what's really available and how do they capture it. Do they throw the ball deep all the time? That kind of stuff. It's all in the available yards. All right, so that's the top. Now then you fall it back to the kind of middle sections there. You got a side that says Florida State, and then you got a side that says Virginia. And basically what that is, those are the same stats we just kind of went over as a group at the top, but it's broken down in terms of here's EPA, but it's going to be on offense and on defense. And then breaking it down even further, it's going to be offense rushing, offense passing, defense rushing. And then you're going to see success rates the same way. And then you're also going to see on there EPA, was that per drive. You're going to see how their drives go. And look, if you're not looking at drive success, it's important. Remember at the beginning of the one of the shows we talked about, we said, hey, look, some of these teams in the NFL, they only get 8 drives. Well, they don't get even that many sometimes. They only get 7. They only get 6. So when you talk about a football game, efficiency is extremely important. And if you're converting your drives and you're getting great EPA, you're going to score points. That's what it is. You want green on all this stuff. And you can see on the left-hand side, it's green everywhere, and it's dark green for Florida State. Like they're just out there. And then the last one there says field position. And field position is extremely important because if you measure the field position here, they are plus 0.68 ranked 20th, and the field position for Virginia is plus 5.8. They rank 25th, 26th, whatever. Even that little bit, but then you combine the EPA at the top, then you start looking at, we're going to get into it in a second, you start looking at some of the AY yardage gap differences. It's almost like every possession that Florida State will have will be 10 yards at an advantage in this game. Every single one. So theoretically, think of it this way. If Virginia starts at the 25 and has to go 75 yards against Florida State's defense, and Florida State starts at the 35 and has to go only 65 yards, that's a major difference in the game. It makes it easier. And they're the better team, right? So when you start thinking about things and you go, oh my God, this is starting to make a little bit more sense. And then in the middle gaps, that's where you can kind of go and say, well, how do they match up? And that's where you see at the top, you have offense for Florida State against the defense for Virginia. And what kind of sticks out here is the offensive pass performance for Florida State ranked 7th in EPA, and they've got a 0.44, and the defense for Virginia is 72nd. So middle of the pack against a very elite offense. And the difference is, so on the defensive side, you want little minuses there. You want minus EPA numbers. You don't want positive ones because that's bad. And they got a 0, so they're not stopping them. They're just trying to contain them. And then the next one down shows rushing, and offense for Florida State is second and third in the country, 30.34, and then you have 92nd for Virginia in this spot. So Virginia's offense or defense is going to have a very difficult time with maintaining this offense and controlling the offense. It's just going to be very difficult. Florida State's going to be able to move the ball. I don't want to say at will, but they're going to be able to drive, convert, because if you look down at available yards, it's number 2 against number 27. But look at the percentage. It's 82% against 32. It's a huge difference in terms of how they're getting the available yards available to them. And then starting field position, look at that. They start on their own 30, and they start on their own 25 for the opponents. It's not a good spot for them. And then early down, it even talks about, this is a good one too, early downs, right? So in a college football game, if you can go on first down or second down and have 3rd and 2, you're in a really good spot. Well, in this particular case, Florida State ranks number 12, and Virginia ranks 123 out of 135 schools. So they should be able to get 2nd and 3rd and shorts, again, converting first down after first down after first down, driving the ball, right? So all they got to do is make sure they don't turn the ball over. And then you start looking at 3rd and 4th down success. Well, it's the same stuff. Florida State dominates, and you can see, like, kind of on the right there, those purple numbers and the light purple numbers. Those aren't good numbers to have. You want green everywhere. Now at the bottom, you sit there and you go, okay, well, theoretically, offensively, Florida State's going to have their way in this game, right? So then you look at it and you go, defense against the offense for Virginia. Well, Virginia's offense is pretty good. It's 27th. But you look at Florida State's defense, they rank 25th. Then you look at against the run, it's 20th against number 8. So Florida State can stop the run. Sure, Virginia's going to get their plays, but they're going to be contained. It's not going to be a steamroll like we saw the other offense. And then when you look at it from a perspective of passing, it's number 10 against number 15. So they can cover these guys, even though there's a good quarterback on the other side for Virginia. The defensive backs can cover these Virginia backs, wide receivers. And you kind of keep going. If you go down the whole slide, it's the same thing on both sides. So the best way to kind of then make a synopsis of this game is after you kind of get this analysis and you go, man, this is something where it looks like Florida State's defense is going to be able to contain the offense of Virginia, but Virginia is going to struggle with the ability to contain the offense from Florida State. Florida State's a Ferrari in this game. You know what I mean? Like they're like, here we go, guys. Stop us if you can. And Virginia is almost like a sedan in this game, right? In this game, the total is what, 59, right? So if you said 59 divided by 2 is 29 and a half plus 3.5. So what is that? Plus 3.5. So theoretically, Florida State's supposed to score 33 in this game, and Virginia's supposed to score 26, right? That's what the line indicates. That's what the total is. Let me ask you, based off of the analysis work and the stuff you just did, can you see Florida State scoring more than 33? I can. Can you see? Can you see Virginia scoring less than 26? I can see that too. So because they're going to be contained. So then you sit there and go, all right, well, what are the other influences in the game? Because the data suggests Florida State's the right side. They're going to cover this 7 points. Well, the data says this is a road game. Well, all right, it's a road game. Then the data suggests, or not the data, the situation suggests that Miami's on deck. So maybe this is a look ahead spot. I don't know if it really is or not. They played a real cupcake last week, so that maybe it isn't. And it's going to be a big game for Virginia. So you got to sit there and kind of balance the two, and then go, how much of this stuff comes into an agreement and alignment before you actually make the bet. So I just wanted to break down a game, show you kind of how it works, and then say, hey, look, there's caveats to this. You may sit there and go, holy crap, they're not going to stop this team. But then there may be non-motivation to score all those points. Maybe this is the first road game, but it's not, for Florida State, stuff like that. Where all of that stuff doesn't come into an alignment. And then you got to go and say, well, that was really good analysis work and all that, but I don't think it's the right bet. So my opinion in this game, Jeff, is that I think Florida State's going to cover the 7. I would have no hesitation to bet it if you wanted to bet it. And then, I don't know, you don't have to bet it today. Maybe it falls to 6.5. Maybe you can get 6.5. It looks to me like people want to bet Virginia in this game. They want to bet that spot because of Miami on deck for Florida State. So maybe you wait. Maybe you wait until it is what it is, and see what you can do. And maybe 6.5s come available. It's not, you don't have to run out to the window and buy it today. But if you do this for every, and I want to say it this way, you don't have to do this for every game. You do this for the games that you think are important. So, doing that for that game, Jeff, do you understand what I was talking about, how I kind of broke it down? Does that make any sense to you, or no?
No, it doesn't. Here's the funny is I work for BC and I do all their home games. I know Mr. Castellanos. I've watched him for a couple years. He loves to run if he has to. It looks like he's matured. It looks like a change of scenery. I don't want anyone to forget that they opened up at home 13-point underdogs to Alabama and absolutely steamrolled them. And we've seen what Alabama has looked like the last 2 weeks, and now they get Georgia on tap today. Listening to your analysis and looking at this data, again, obviously on paper, I lean Florida State without a doubt. How would I get in there? Initially, I would be looking at their team total over. But again, the caveat here is I've had some tough spots in the years when Virginia's got a Thursday or Friday night game. I've seen them get wiped out by Boise State, and I was on the wrong side. I've been bet against them, and I was on the wrong side because they're a weird team. I know there's no Herman Moore over there, and you guys who don't know who Herman Moore is, go Google him. But my point is, the caveat again is, hey, do we come in and do we sneak in a victory and save our big game plan for next week in Miami? Does Castellanos basically not turn the ball over? The other thing is it looks like both teams are going to be able to move the ball, and we know what happens when a projected high-scoring game, but they're not, like last night, they were all touchdowns. There weren't many field goals. And this one could be both teams are great from 20 to 20, and instead of scoring touchdowns, they're kicking field goals, which again, a 6.5, 7-point favorite could come into play here. Here, 27-23 final. Let's get out of Dodge and get ready for Miami.
Well, there's a couple things. I think I made a note on the PowerPoint, and I said to wrap this kind of thing up. The North Star, the thing you want to start with when you're doing this kind of stuff is EPA. EPA is your guide to making the right choices and decisions. The second thing then is use margins and ranks in the matchups to kind of help guide you to who's going to stop who's not going to stop who, how they're going to do it, and then field position and success rates just make it look more dominant for one team or less dominant for the other. So that's kind of how I do it. That's what I look for. That's kind of how I match all this stuff up. And questions or concerns, comments, or any of that stuff, well appreciated. And whether it's on here live or whether you do it through Twitter, it doesn't matter if you have any questions or concerns. Getting to the games, I can tell you I haven't bet a game yet, Jeff, but I have a list that I am working on. Obviously, I think Florida State is a game that I want to really kind of dive into a little bit further. I think that's going to be a game that the football focus guys, FFC guys, are going to break down. So I want to see what those matchups kind of look like a little bit people wise. But Houston, which I didn't think I was going to be looking at these Friday games. I really didn't. But looking at numbers and looking at the data points and all this stuff, Houston plays Oregon State. Houston's 13.5-point favorites. I think it opened, it was 12.5, so it moved up a little bit. Here's my thoughts on this Houston game and looking at it. Houston's got a great defense. They really do. They got a really good defense. They haven't played anybody yet, but they still got a really good defense. And Oregon State is just bad. And when you think about what Oregon State might not score enough in this game to cover that number. So I think it's very possible that they don't score more than 10. I think it's certainly possible they don't score more than 14 in this game. So I like the idea here that with a total at 47, you're not looking for a big score. That's because Oregon State can't score, and Houston's got a good defense. Now, Houston's offense isn't going to go out there and score 18,000 points, but I do think they score enough that they win this game by more than 2 touchdowns, might be higher. So I'm looking at that particular spot for Friday.
Scotty, I when I first saw this game, that's exactly what I said. This Oregon State team is putrid. It's like a team that's looking for a home since they've been, no Pac-12. I have to piggyback here, though. I have to put you to the test here, okay? And I'm asking you to pull something up. Can you please pull up who Oregon State has played? Because I listen, on paper, I get all that. But when I'm looking at a strength of schedule of Houston at 109, and I didn't know this till I just saw it, Oregon State strength of schedule is number 1 in the country. Number 1 in the country, Scotty.
Well, it's listed that way because they played Oregon. And, Oregon's right up there. And they played Texas Tech, who's now right up there. They also played Fresno State and Cal. That's who they've played. So those, to me, Florida's played tougher people than that. But that's how the ratings go. But, I think that as this kind of progresses out, they won't be playing the toughest schedule in the world. So next week it'll be a different number, and then the next week it'll be a different number. But they played Oregon, lost 41-7, which is an interstate rival. They played. By the way, Jeff, when you're on games, what is that, Games Paper, whatever that website is, if you click on the game, and then you can see these scores for the teams. They played Texas Tech. They lost 45-14. They played Fresno State. They lost 36-27 to Fresno State, and then they lost 34-15 to Cal. So they've only scored more than 15 points once, and they've allowed more than 34 points 4 times, and 2 times they've allowed more than 40. So I think Houston scores a little more than what they normally would, and I think that based on the defense that they're getting ready to see from Houston, they score less than 2 touchdowns.
And I'm not saying that that's not the truth here. And I will say this. Oregon, well balanced. We'll see them this week at Penn State. Offense and defense, they have both sides of the ball covered. Texas Tech offensively, and what they did to Utah, it has to be put on notice here. This Texas Tech team can score with anyone in the country, and to go to Utah in a high noon game, which was like 10 a.m. for them, and to do what they did. So my point is, they've played two teams that can score. And then Fresno State, Cal got, I don't want to say got caught peeking, but they got kicked in the jimmies at San Diego State, 13-point favorites or whatever they were. They lost outright. Now they travel cross country to BC, where I'll be on Saturday there. So again, I'm not here telling everyone to run to the window and bet Oregon State, because I couldn't even, if you Venmoed me 100 to bet Oregon State, I'd be like, whoa, wait, because I know Houston's defense. But my point is, Oregon and Houston, obviously check marks across the whole left side to Oregon. Texas Tech and Houston, I think Texas Tech would have most of the check marks there. Houston, on paper, yes, I get it. I love their defense. Here, I'm just kind of curious, and it's the third game on that board, because TCU Arizona State is kind of another big game there as well. So there's three great games on Friday night with the headline of Florida State Virginia, but TCU Arizona State, and then by the late one is this Houston Oregon State. So if you go 0-2 with the first two, you're going to be running to the window and just blindly betting Houston. And I'm just saying, on Tuesday, there's some numbers to be crunched there.
No. Look, however you want to handicap your games and however you want to look at them, this is data points. These are things. I'm just trying to teach people how to read them, and then what the definitions are and what they mean and how the comparisons are. Like in that game, Jeff, click the preview window, right? Because we did that for the Florida State game. But look at how much purple's in that section, in those sections, as opposed to what we just saw just a minute ago with Virginia and look at that. I mean, but I see, just like, again, start at the top. So if you start at the top and you look at it and you go, holy shit, look at the EPA per play for Houston. They ranked 25th, plus 0.28. Look at Oregon State, minus 0.10. They're not a positive EPA team. That means that they move backwards from the goal line. That they don't move forwards to the goal line. So you sort of add that number to what Houston has the availability to do. And then when you look at the AY percentage, available yards percentage for Oregon State, they rank 134th. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, there's 135 schools. They're 134th. And they're going to play number 32 with Houston. So it's not like this is a what I'm trying to say here is that Houston's offense, and you can see it in some of the stuff that, like, if you look at the offensive success rate, which is the second column down on the left for Houston, it's damn purple as shit. That means they don't move the ball that much. They're getting big plays. They do different things. But on the other side of the ball, Oregon State can't stop them. I mean, they might stop them here and there. They might do different things. But looking at offensively for Oregon State against all that green, again, I don't think they score more than 4. How are they going to score a whole bunch of points? I don't think they are. So that's my point. My point basically is, I think Houston scores enough. I think Houston wins by more than 14 points, and I think they come out of this thing and go, okay, great, now we go back in and start doing other stuff. Anyway, it's green against purple. You got to like green against purple.
We'll be back on Thursday. We'll be back on Friday, 9:15. We'll be talking about the Thursday night football game, and then we'll be maybe some in-pocket games already on Thursday. Back at it on Friday. Scotty's in-pocket games last week went 4-0 there. Closing thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I think I would love questions. Obviously, I want this thing to be way more interactive. Get a lot of people on here and talk to us a little bit, ask questions, have some game analysis that you want us to do for you. When I'm done with this show, I'm going to go play poker, man. I have time to do some of this stuff for people and answer questions and do different things after that kind of stuff. Um, so I think there's some things to look at. You can utilize this information too. So if you guys go to the Utah West Virginia game and you pull this up, I'm going to think about this game in terms of under. I don't think either team's going to score any points in Utah West Virginia. They both got good defenses, and their offenses are suspect at this point. So I know Utah played pretty well up to that point, but I look at this game and I go, well, Utah's actually played an easier schedule than West Virginia has, and West Virginia's played pretty good defense. So I kind of like that game as to be an under, but we're going to look at some of that before. And then when I come on Thursday, I'll go, hey, look, these are my bets that I've made. This is where you are. You can still get the number at this point or at that point. Or like we gave out the number last week of Old Miss was minus 11.5, and it went to 13. I said it was still good, and it was. So the point being is where do I get that stuff from? It's from this stuff. This is what we're doing. So I want to just follow up with the world's crazy today. The world has a lot of things that you can get involved in that's not good for you. So stay, and I'm not going to be this guy that says, hey, believe this way or believe that way, because I don't really care how you believe. But what I do care about is people, and people coming and going, and all that's going to be a part of life. But when you're out there every day, be nice to people. You can, and when I say be nice, just don't be an asshole, right? You can have your opinion, but don't be an asshole. And not only that, but at the same time, start thinking about building people up instead of tearing people down. And I think that as you start to do this, things in your life might improve a little bit. You don't have to be so skeptical of everything. We're in lanes, Jeff, and Jeff will tell you this. We're in lanes with a lot of negativity. A lot of stupid stuff happens. People say stupid stuff all the time. There's not accountability for a lot of different things. So we try to be as best we can with that kind of stuff. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but at the same time, try to do your best. Try to learn. Try to read. Get yourself involved in things that you help yourself, because the truth of the matter is nobody's going to do it for you. And the better you become at self-learning, the better you're going to get at being proficient at what you do.
And for myself, very simply, as I said, the last 48, 72 hours, real tough for me. We had two big losses, as most people know here, at least on social media, people that have followed me for the last 9 years. Dave Sharapan passed away over the weekend. Dave was an integral part of opening up a lot of doors for me, whether it was on Sports Grid, whether it was at my connections with Jeffrey Benson and Derek Stevens at Circa, radio shows, TV shows. Me, Dave, and Brady Tinker did a podcast for a few years ago for the whole fall schedule till Dave went off with Matt Peralt and started the book, The Bostonian versus the Book. Will be deeply missed there. And of course, as I said in the intro, Marty Lowe. Thank you, Valerie, again for reaching out to me. Marty Lowe passed away unexpectedly yesterday. And my point here is this, guys, is there's no guarantees. And the problem with how people operate is we worry about yesterday, and we also worry about tomorrow. And what you're basically doing, if you take 1 foot back and 1 foot forward, you're pissing on today. You woke up this morning, your feet hit the ground. You were given a gift. Okay, you have a 24-hour reprieve, and it's what are you going to do with the 24 hours? Are you going to worry about tomorrow? You're going to worry about yesterday and forget about today. So again, hug your loved ones, call your sons, your daughters, tell them you love them. If your mom and dad are still alive, reach out to them, say, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, how you doing? I love you to death. Because, again, we don't know what's going to happen the rest of today, never mind tomorrow. So in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, give me some time here. Andrew McGinnis will be back, talk some CFL, some NHL as they are practicing as we speak. Maybe some NFL, and we'll talk about his Jays as they get ready. 6 days to go to hopefully wrap up the American League East. They are the actually. I'll close with this, Scotty. And I looked last night when I got back. The Seattle Mariners are now the favorites to win the American League pennant. So it was the Yankees for most of the year. Then it was the Tigers. Then it was the Jays a couple weeks ago. It is now the Seattle Mariners that are favorites to win the American League. Brewers, Dodgers, and Phillies, the top three in the NL. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Wish everyone a blessed day. Go get yourself a coffee, a quick bagel. Come back in about 15, 20 minutes, and we'll see you soon.